Fairfield. This is Fairfield 2.0. And as you can see by the gaggle of guests, this is going to be one of those really exciting episodes. And let's start there. Ken Daly. Everyone knows Ken Daly, so we'll just move on. No, Ken Daly actually overseeing all sorts of programs in the name of athletics in Fairfield, including a big proponent of trying to get the Blue Zone going here. And Ken will describe what's going on with the Blue Zone and give us an update, okay?
Certainly will.
We have Jeff Boothby over here, who I've been trying to get on the show for like a long, long time. Jeff is one of the town's great videographers, and we'll talk about what you're up to lately. And what projects, we'll give everybody a little history lesson, what projects that we're familiar with. And over here, we have two new pals. I just met them about 20 minutes ago. We have Shane and Jess. Let me see if I can remember. I'm going to get this exactly. I know it. It's going to be it's Shane McIntyre.
Nope.
Oh, wow, that's really impressive, though.
Oh, it combines.
It's a really creative hybrid, yeah.
Okay, so we have Jess McIntyre.
Macintosh.
Will you guys introduce yourselves, please? we'll just go
I'm
there.
Jess Macintosh.
And I'm Shane Leonard.
Yeah.
And we're new friends.
That's right.
So here we go. Part of a group called Kalispell.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And you're just passing through.
That's
So
right.
right after the show, you're going to jump in the car and you're out of here.
We're driving to Peoria.
Where new people will have to learn your names and,
Yeah.
and about your adventures.
Yes.
All right, let's start over with Ken. Ken, do me a favor.
Yep.
Give us the update on what's happening, first of all, with Blue Zone.
Okay, well...
And maybe a description of what it is.
Yeah, I think maybe step back, because Blue Zone is not a concept that most people are aware of. It has nothing to do with the Blue Man Group. Blue Zone actually came out of some work done in the mid-2000s by National Geographic. And what they did is they went around the world and they took a look at all communities and cultures where longevity was displayed. People lived to be at least 100 years of age. And they said, okay, people in your community, for instance, in Okinawa in Japan was one of the places, they said, what do you think contributes to your longevity? They said, da-da-da-da-da, and they made a long list of things that they thought. And they interviewed lots of people, and they kept coming up with their list. And then they went around the world, and they found four other areas. Loma Linda, California, the Seventh-day Adventist Church was another one that where longevity was shown.
Wow.
Nikos in Peninsula in Costa Rica, another one. So they found these communities, and they looked and said, what do you think is longevity, causing longevity?
Right.
Then they took all of those and started overlapping them on top of each other to say, is there anything common between these cultures?
Right.
And what they found eventually is that it ended up being about 9 commonalities, 9 things that were common to cultures throughout the world. And that then became the basis of Dan Buettner's book. He was working for National Geographic on an assignment. He put this together and said, okay, here's what is contributing to this longevity. Here are the characteristics. And that was cool, interesting.
Van Butten's book, what are some of these characteristics?
Well, things like mostly a plant-based diet.
Huh.
So that in all of these cultures, they eat meat usually only as a condiment. Something like a little bit of extra, either special occasion, if they eat it at all. It's special occasion or celebratory or something like that. It's not their mainstay of their diet. And if that holds out. Another one would be greater meaning. Everybody in the culture is contributing, and there's something of greater meaning in their culture. And it's not always religious. It could be, the Seventh-day Adventist Church obviously is. But some of the other ones, it's just a sense of purpose. Their culture has purpose. And so each one of these things that they find, all of these different items, they all contribute to this longevity. So, we've got this concept. People were starting to, as individuals, say, well, I'll start to adopt some of these behaviors. Then they had the idea about 3 years ago to say, listen, what would happen if we went into one city and actually tried this out, tried to create these kind of behaviors?
Yeah.
And the American Association of Retired Persons put a big, like, couple of $1 million, and they tried it. And indeed, they were able to shift the behaviors of the people.
Where did they do this?
And you should have written it down before.
I'm sorry.
It's in Wisconsin, southern Wisconsin,
Okay.
and it'll come to me in a second.
Okay. Sorry.
It's just having a mind buzz right now. And they tried it in that community, and indeed they were able to create differences of about 2.5 years of longevity in a 1-year period by measuring the population.
Okay.
Fast forward a couple of years after that, governor of the state of Iowa says, hey, Iowa is about 29th in the nation in terms of health, not particularly good shape, and said, I'm going to make Iowa the #1 healthiest state in the nation in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Terribly bold and progressive, and no matter what your politics are, Republican, Democrat, or other, this I thought was a very bold move.
Yeah.
And indeed, so that's been adopted, and they started to create now. They've been interviewing communities across Iowa to see if they want to become a blue zone and whether they have the infrastructure to do it. And we'll know by mid-October whether Fairfield is accepted as one of the, they have big communities and small communities, one of the 3 small communities that will be candidates for blue zone.
Who's the competition so we can go over there and
Yeah.
muscle?
Actually, there's actually over 30 some communities that were in the small community category that we're trying out, and so we're down now to to a small group of them, and they actually need us.
Right.
That's my opinion. Is that program actually needs us because Fairfield has shown such remarkable versatility and adaptability, and guests showing up from out of nowhere.
Whose names are?
Fairfield's a very dynamic community, and we have shown over time that we are able to change and to embrace change.
Yeah, and I like it because, it makes sense. It's like you'd want Fairfield in your statistics because we've got all these other things going on due to people practicing things.
And that's the thing about blue zones is it's not about more gymnasiums. It's not more about kind of infrastructure. It has more to do with social behavior, interaction with other people, having close friends. These are all of the things that actually create longevity. And physical activity, of course, is one of them.
Diet.
Yeah, and the other thing is interesting with physical activity is that in all of these cultures, they don't exercise. Yeah. Physical activity is inherent in what they do. It's part of what they do, except for Loma Linda.
What was the
well, in Loma Linda, it's basically surrounded by Los Angeles now. It used to be in the country. It was in the sticks for a long time. It was way out nowhere. But Los Angeles grew around it. They're committed to a lot of things like vegetarianism. Half of their population is vegetarian, so they were a natural for the study and being able to be a candidate. But they walk. They're the walkers. They have more sidewalks than you can possibly believe. And after supper, everybody goes walks. It's like part of their culture. And they go out and they meet their neighbors and they talk to their neighbors because they have community. Yeah. Very strong community. Yeah. And they're just chatting with each other and they walk. They walk incessantly in that community. And if you look at all of the other ones, they either do light farming or they move. There's hilly country and they have to move through the hills to get to whatever they do.
Yeah, I actually just watched this documentary called How to Live Forever. Yeah. So it was an interesting documentary, and it looked at like all the oldest people in the world and interviewed like many of all the ones that were still alive that they could get a hold of, and so it was like a lot of this like similar stuff. And so like in Okinawa, like there are like these people that are like in their mid-90s that go fishing every single morning, and they look like they're 60.
Right. And the interesting thing is they go fishing every morning, but they have purpose. When they get up in the morning, going fishing is really important to them, either as sustenance for life, or it's for some reason that has meaning within their culture. Same thing in Sardinia, in Italy, is another one of these communities, and they get up in the morning and it's like, they're from this community. It's like, and we are going to do what we always have done. And they, getting up and kind of trucking up into the mountains is part of what they're about.
Can I ask you, how long does the study need to go on in order to figure out how long a culture can extend its life span? In other words, like how do you tell after a couple of years that we've now expanded, by this much?
Well, the data collection, there's a whole very sophisticated way of collecting the data. And that There's another organization that collects the data that actually measures longevity
All right, and
in the community.
Okay, and I really meant that in the context of like, okay, so now you're applying those concepts to a new community. For instance, one you mentioned earlier, how can they actually make deduce that that's going to be the result? They've extended it by 2.5 years or whatever. How will they know that in such a short period of examination?
That's the interesting thing, that even in this particular group that was done in Wisconsin, that was only about a year and a half to 2 years that they were there. They got that kind of results that quickly. So it doesn't take that much time to be able to see longevity. Now, some of this is questionnaires and such that they're doing. Now, how far a community can extend, well, that's the fun thing about it, and that's going to be the interesting thing because.
Well, here in Fairfield, it's 125 years. So, but beyond that,
well, the trend though is in the country is just the opposite. I'm sorry, but your generation is the first generation that likely will, by statistics right now, live less of a lifespan than the generation before.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. But
It's not going to be us.
but it's because, no, not as individuals, but as a society, we're actually expecting our longevity to decrease in North America, mainly because of behavioral things that we're doing.
Especially maybe physical inactivity?
Physical activity, inactivity is a big thing. The other thing is nutrition. The obesity, the crap that we're eating.
Yeah. No, that's fine. We're fine.
That's
a fine word.
That's fine. We're here. We're eating some stuff that we really shouldn't be putting into our bodies, and all of those things have a result.
The funny thing is that we've been educated, well, at least the word has been out there in commercials and in conversation and whatever, in the culture, for so long about, well, it's not great to be eating a ton of, fried food, a ton of this, a ton of that, and yet nobody's kind of, well, not nobody, and yet there's a percentage of the culture which still isn't paying attention to it. And I'm imagining also it's because of economics. A lot of people are resorting to these things because they may be, and they're not, cheaper than eating healthily. But in their minds, it's easier to go to McDonald's maybe and go grab nothing, I guess, against McDonald's. We don't need to slag McDonald's. But I'm just saying there are habits, there are eating habits which don't change in the culture.
Short-term habits.
Right, hopefully short-term, yeah.
And also the short-term in terms of savings. It's actually cheaper to eat fast food than it is to eat slow food. That's where I was going before. Because of the nature of how it's produced at this point in time, and the economics of subsidies, etc. So it's actually cheaper to do it, but the long-term cost of it is massive. Yeah. It's. I just came across something. I'm also working heavily with tobacco in this county and Keokuk County, the two counties right now, and I just came across something this morning, and it said that in New York State, there are many people that are spending 25% of their income on tobacco. That's how much it costs them because it's
2 packs a day, carton cigarettes goes health quickly.
And the average in the country is 14%. A smoker spends 14% of their income on tobacco.
Oh.
And that
now they've raised the prices to try and get
Although,
people to stop.
Is that through taxing? Is that through taxing?
Yeah, but it works. So see, that's the crazy thing. If I want to stop young people, especially young people from smoking, all you do is crank up the dial on the cost of cigarettes. And that will reduce. It's just like crank this much reduction in tobacco usage by young people. Older folks, it's a little rougher to do it, that twisting. But in young people who are, there's some limits on the income that they have discretionary money. It's 1 for 1. It's like a little twist here.
Are you going to spend it on tobacco? Or are you going to spend it on the latest video game? Or are you going to spend it on the latest or something else? My fear is that I don't see a big education going on in this country with this stuff. This is a wonderful thing you're taking on, and I think our city, Fairfield has been educated very well, with your leadership as far as this subject. And it's almost like what is going on nationally to alert people, even if it's not this kind of a thing, like have a blue, the Blue Zone concept that we were talking about, but at least to eat better, to live a little, these are just logical things, and we don't ever seem to address it as a nation.
Well, the First Lady, Michelle Obama, is actually starting to take that on with the Let's Move program. And, she's done a lot of good work in terms of nutrition,
Right.
which she's done already. And some of the other stuff, there's been some political backroom stuff that's been limiting where she was able to go. So my people tell me.
Yeah.
So there's some stuff that's going on. But that has started to make a difference in the country. People are more aware than they were.
Yeah.
And we just have to keep getting the word out, because if we don't, I mean, literally, if we could take everybody in the country and just get them to walk every day, that would literally save the current medical system. In other words, whether we like the current medical system or not, but it's going to go belly up soon. We could save even that system by just walking about 20 minutes, 30 minutes every day if everybody did in the country. It's just like within 6 months, the whole culture would be a massive shift.
See, this is something that should be, videoed for longevity. Somebody needs to get the word out. We need people like you to get out there.
Right now.
In fact, Jeff, what do you make of all of this?
I think it's super interesting and awesome. I like watching documentaries about this kind of stuff. I feel like I do a lot of traveling, and I'm like constantly like meeting people, and it's all kinds of different people. I work as a wedding videographer, so I'm constantly going to like people's weddings all over the country, and it's all types of different communities and different types of people, some that are like more like me and some that are less, and so it's a really, really interesting thing. But I do feel like it's interesting to see how there are a lot of people in cities where this is just like common knowledge. Like everybody's aware, like everybody eats organic, like you can't find a parking spot in a Whole Foods. You can't it's like ridiculous. But then there's these massive area, like rural areas where it's just no one even thinks about it. You know, it's just like
what we call them food deserts.
right.
Food deserts.
Interesting.
And you think of like a place like Iowa, food all over the place. They grow everything. Well, the truth of the matter is that if you're living in anything less than a city, you're usually in a food desert, because all of the small communities of a few hundred people, they have to eat out of a convenience store. That's their food.
Yeah.
And so there is no good food.
Right.
And the same thing in the inner city, like you were saying. You go in the inner city, find a grocery store in the inner city.
That's
The people that are at most risk in the inner city have the least access to healthy food because they're back in the convenience store.
Interesting.
Yeah. Part of what's interesting to me is that we want all these things are good, all these the priorities that we're setting about health, but we also want other things at the same time, other conveniences that are contradictory, and we want them to exist simultaneously. Like the ideas about like internet connectivity and Facebook and networking and social media. We want to feel more connected to people, and we want to feel more tapped into our own culture. But at the same time, like doing it in that way and having that massive convenience is keeping us from like actual connecting to each other in a deeper, like that sense of purpose you were talking about. I think I'm maybe going out on a limb here, but I would guess that maybe those cultures that are in that study that have a longer longevity are not folks who spend a couple of hours a day updating their status on Facebook, because they're busier out there actually living life rather than just reporting the experience to other people. I think that's interesting because when people give up the social media, maybe in a way they fear that they'll be less connected and that they're taking a step back. But just it's a conundrum, the idea of what is positive progress and what is
Let me tell you
holding
something.
us back.
Last night I have like 1,730 something like that friends, Facebook friends, all close personal friends. Last night I was just in this mood. I was trying to find. Sometimes I just don't like being in my house. I want to be around people. It's sort of the opposite of, it's like, I've got my Facebook friends. I'm fine. I want to go out. I blog in the Hy-Vee. I blog like places where I know there are going to be people, just so I have the atmosphere of people being around. I like that. Whereas I've noticed in a lot of people, maybe that skew a little younger than not, they could be sitting as close as you guys, and they're going to be texting each other
Right.
They don't even look at each other, like texting each other. And there's a phenomenon that I can't relate to, and yet I think it's funny. I think it's
totally, like, I'll work in an office with, like, 2 or 3 other guys, and we will, like, talk to each other
emailing
via
at least, right? Or
like,
chat.
on our computers, even though we're right next to each other.
Email is like a thing of the. I would say to email is like forget email. It's like chatting. It's like you want instant gratification with that. Yeah.
It's crazy.
I with emails, by the way, somebody emailed me the other day and she freaked out because I didn't get back to her within the first 10 minutes of her sending a thing. It's like, is everything okay? Did I offend you? It's like, yeah, everything's fine. I have other things in my life too.
Yeah.
But that's true. I mean, the culture has changed. My feeling is that the culture has changed to such a degree that everything is so fast. That might be people's mistaking themselves, their lifestyles for being active and burning calories and being, physically whatever. I could see that. I could see that illusion sort of being there. Because, if you're like this and you're always running around, you're always, whatever, you seem like you have an active life. But as Ken would know, having also overseeing the rec center in town, you need that. You need the physical engagement.
Well, it's interesting because one of the principles of the 9 that we were talking about, and they'll come up as we go along, one of them is wine at 5. Now, it doesn't mean that you need to drink wine, but the principle of at 5 o'clock at night when the workday is done, gathering with friends at that time of day for that carbon-based interaction, right? People-to-people interaction is very, very important, and it exists in all of these cultures in one way or another.
Yeah.
That at sometime in the late day, now wine can have certain medicinal properties
The
to it.
antioxidants that are associated.
The truth is, you can get it from grape juice that is like red grape juice will do the same thing. You don't need the wine because there is a detriment to the wine. But at the same time, that environment that it's created in, that social interaction, the carbon base where we can get together and share our experiences is really important. And culture creating, that's where the cultural creating comes in. And music and such things, that becomes part of that time when people come together and gather together.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, and that's the thing with the internet, with everything being so accessible and so, what's my latest YouTube video? If I want to market myself, let's go over here. When you guys, Kalispell wants to market themselves, you have to do your Facebook, you have to do all the social media, you have to.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it does create, you balance it out. You're touring live, you're playing a lot, which is how we got you here today. You're passing through town because you're touring and going everywhere and playing. On the other hand, you're doing that hand in hand with promoting yourselves online and doing the social media. Yeah. You can't get away from it. You're really locked into that whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, you can get away from it if you want, but it's
not going to help you.
Not paving away to success.
It's not, but it's creating. But this other thing is sort of like creating a virtual life. You have a virtual life in addition to your carbon-based life, where you're actually in the same room with everybody performing.
Yeah.
And it's almost. And how about performances now, where concerts are being given, where you can't make the concert, but we'll broadcast it live. U2 or whoever it is.
Right.
To create this sort of melding of it, but you still don't really have the melding. It's not like actually being at the concert.
Right.
So my experience of it has been, every time I've tried that, it's kind of cold. It's kind of. So is there some sort of a way to make the virtual experience more carbon-based other than, hey, everybody come on out and see us at the concerts? In other words, is it real-time communication? Could that be it? The stuff that I was kind of joking about earlier with the texting. I mean, in a way, maybe that is as close to carbon-based that a lot of these people are going to be able to get to.
I think that, at least I hope, this is sort of our attempt is to stay away from using social media or those kinds of outlets as a virtual world and more as a tool to access people and invite them and things like that. And it is extremely important because it is the way that most people our age and people of all ages communicate now. Yeah. So Shane mostly is sort of on the business end of the band and could tell you how much time he has to spend every day really like just covering all the bases because there's so many, just being like the Facebook and I can't even cover it all. But really just using it for what it is as a tool to communicate with people and let them know what's happening in the real world, and then to help promote ourselves and promote people who have helped us, and creating that reciprocity of community as well, like saying these are people who are doing really great things here in Fairfield, or these are people in some other place who are helping us out, and we want to do that too. So like getting their name out in that world can be an important use of those things too, but we try to stay away from living in that world. Yeah.
Well, by the way, you're on Fairfield 2.0. Hi, everybody. Introducing Fairfield to Fairfield and the world, but also introducing guests to Fairfield. So what do you think so far? And how long have you been here?
We've only been here since, I guess we rolled in last night at about 6:30.
Yeah.
Nice. I know you already had a concert here.
Yeah, we played last night. And
great experience so far.
Yeah, and then, let's see, this morning we got out running on a path over here
Trail.
Through the woods, and that was beautiful.
We took a hike last night at probably, like 1 a.m.
Yeah.
This is perfect. This fits right into what you were saying earlier.
We hiked through the trails.
Yeah. It's really, we try to stay physically active because we're in the car a lot every day. But, yeah, it's been great. And then this is, just now on the way here to the studio, we got to see kind of like the town square area, which is great. And I think that's, that probably goes a long way toward promoting community and belonging. Yeah, having a common space like that.
And it seems like you guys are natural fits in. I would imagine every community you're going to. What are some of the places, because we embraced you so quickly over here? Where have you been? What's this tour been like?
So far we've been around the Midwest a bit. We played a couple shows in Minneapolis before we sort of headed south. So we're from Eau Claire, which is sort of close to Minneapolis up there. And then we played in Sheboygan.
Sheboygan!
Yeah. Which we really
the makings
loved.
of a 1942 movie.
Oh, really?
No, it's an old movie type of name, right?
We actually found that when we're watching movies lately, we've realized writers love to use
Sheboygan.
Wisconsin
as
their like go-to place that the like innocuous sidekick person, like in Annie Hall, for example.
Oh yeah, Chippewa Falls.
Diane Keaton's character is from Chippewa Falls. Yeah, and it's like it keeps popping up.
And her brother is from like Mars.
I think.
Remember that scene?
I think they assume that Mars and anywhere in Wisconsin are sort of synonymous. That people just don't know.
We could say like we're in Fairfield.
Yeah, so we played a bunch of shows around the Midwest, and we have about a week more of that, and then we start to head south. We're out for about 6 weeks total. So it's kind of like a big loop down to Georgia and then back up.
All right. And back up to where? What's your history as far as getting together and all that?
We met in college and just started playing mostly old-time, like traditional Appalachian music together. Old-time is kind of a vague title, but it basically just refers to the style of fiddle tunes and old songs and ballads that came from the British Isles.
More traditional.
The stuff that was around and that was more popular before like the advent of radio and TV and bluegrass, ultimately. Yeah. So, and during that time I had like an indie rock band, and we were writing songs and things. And so just over time, I think the two styles have kind of melded, just a natural progression. And we each moved away for a while. I went and lived in Boston, and Jess moved down to Tennessee. And when we moved back and met up again, that process just continued. So
right.
Yeah.
Back meaning Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
Yeah, back to Eau Claire. Yeah.
And you need somebody to document your travels and to do it, don't you?
We have our good pal Yusuf along with us on the road.
Yeah. In fact, if anybody watching is interested in checking it out, it's all on the website, kalispellband.com. There's a blog that we have a blogger who's documenting the thing on an almost daily basis.
Yeah. Yusuf, who ironically looks a little like Cat Stevens. You've noticed a little
connection
there. Are you are you making like a new record? Oh, first of all, let's introduce your records here.
Sure.
Kalispell, a couple of projects here. This one looks like an EP, and this one looks like an album.
Yeah, this was an EP that I put out about 1.5 years ago, and then this one was just put out in May. And it's been doing pretty well, and it's it's out there if people want it.
All right, that's a quick question I want to ask you because we got to get Jeff in here,
Yeah.
But what do you view as success when you're on the road and you're trying to support yourself and you've got the life of a musician and you don't have like a million selling hit record? What's it like these days for you guys?
It's not easy, but it's also, I mean, we were talking about having a sense of purpose before. I think for me, I would rather be earning less but doing hard work every day that is really personally meaningful, and that's like directly relevant to me than being maybe more comfortable but like working at Taco Bell or something. So I mean, right now,
more comfortable.
Yeah,
Definitely.
And I think there's also the idea, like the whole romanticized notion of being a starving artist just isn't true anymore. It's not fun. But I think it's also
it's been romanticized so much over the years that
yeah. But I think the thing also is true that if people make music and if you work hard enough at it, there are ways that you can make a living, not a really glamorous living,
right.
But you just have to work really hard at it like anybody else. So we're doing all right. Like we make enough money on tour to feed ourselves and put gas in the car and maybe return home and be able to pay a portion of that month's rent.
And you have all your mandatory swag, the stuff you sell.
That's right. Concerts. Yep.
Stuff we all get, of course, swag. And then what about things like the CDs? You'll be selling those.
Yeah.
But what about things like Kickstarter or projects or things that help fund a tour? There's an aspect to that which bugs me. So like, hey, fund our tour. It's like, well, that's why you're on tour. Let's try to figure out how to.
I think.
But on the other hand, I'm old. What do I know?
No, I had the same feeling about Kickstarter for a long time. I was totally against it because I felt like it was. I hate to say this, but I felt like it was lazy because it was like give us money. But now I understand it better, and we're actually planning on using a Kickstarter for our next album, which we're recording this winter.
But that's different. I feel like an actual physical product where you can actually involve you can have an interactive process with that. With a tour, it's a little less. It's more like, help us stay in, a better hotel.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really, that's not nice. I don't mean I'm totally like that. But I'm just saying.
We're over here like.
I'm just, what is he saying?
I'd like a nice hotel for a change. I'd like a bed.
When people do Kickstarters for their tours, do they have, like I know with an album, it's if you like fund it at $10 and you get automatically, it's like you bought a copy of the album when it's done. When they do it for the tour, is it like buying a ticket for the show? Or
I would imagine that, but I think it's also things like, I knew somebody who was doing a Kickstarter campaign for their tour and they sold things like old banjos that they had that they weren't using anymore. They were selling like paintings they made when they were 12 years old. They just had all sorts of stuff that would normally go out in a garage sale.
Yeah.
But they were selling it because it was personal. It was pieces of property that they could at least, in a token way, give to somebody who contributed to the project. And and that was sweet. Not project, to the tour. And I think that's sweet. But on the other hand, I can see it more with this. I couldn't see it with the tour stuff. Although it's the way it is. That's just the way it is, and it's just me needing to change my paradigm on that.
I think there's something really nice about it too, though. That's sort of old world. Like, I need some help with something, and here are people who might just be willing to help out for the sake of helping out. And rather than putting it like the negative beggar's spin on it, like just give me your money because I can't make it on my own.
Right.
Sort of like everyone helping each other out.
Well, we need a new camera here, so I think that my 1,729 Facebook friends. Hi everyone. Might get hit up. No, Jeff. What is your experience? Can you use Kickstarter to do projects that are creative projects on your end too?
Yeah, I actually haven't used it personally for anything yet, but I have a lot of friends who've used it and been successful, some that have used it and not been successful. I'm planning on trying to use it at some point. Cool. I think it's the kind of thing where, if there's like a cool creative project that's happening and it's actually really cool and actually really awesome, when you hear about it, you like want to give money to it.
Exactly. Yes.
It's like the kind of thing like I'll give money to Kickstarter projects that I think are super awesome. There's like this new kind of trend in the video game industry, for instance, where like fairly well-known game designers will like be like, oh, I want to make a game outside of the game studio system and make whatever I want. Let me have, like, I'm going to do a Kickstarter. And they raise, like, millions of dollars. You're basically paying for the game in advance.
Yeah,
and you're getting, like, this amazing game designer to be able to make the game. So anyway, things like that, I think, are, like, it's a natural thing to want to fund. I think it's the types of things that are a little more, you know, self-involved, or like somebody being like, I'm starting a business. Help me start my business. And it's a little bit like, well, why don't you get a business loan?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And by the way, where's your business plan?
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah.
I'm curious about that. It's great as far as like trying to help out in the creative field. It's totally understandable. And then also with the fans and with people who are coming in and seeing whatever the thing is, and they're feeling like they're donating to the arts.
Right.
So I get the mentality on the other end of this. I've never not seen that part. It's the other side. I was sort of like, with mom and dad saying, get out there and earn your keep, that whole thing. It's like just fighting through that, and totally. It's a new world. And you know what? A lot of people who were struggling artists over the years, if they had something, who were really good artists that never made it, or that or who are struggling forever for no reason, maybe if they'd had Kickstarter programs, or maybe if they'd had more support from their fans in a more channeled and in a more focused way like this, if somebody had thought of that would have been cool, as opposed to send us checks, which is, I think, some of that.
One of the things that I'm really curious, Jeff, you're one of the cultural creatives in our community and have been for some time. You're doing the video right now with, wedding shots and such, and that's a way to stay alive, in part. And obviously, there's a whole area of creativity can be brought to that. I mean, that's a given. I'm not questioning that.
Sure.
I'm curious about what you're doing right now, or what you're thinking, projects you may be thinking about that are feeding you a little bit more, because this one I see, wedding photography feeding a community,
Sure.
interacting with a community, reaching out and letting them create more community. What about yourself inside?
Well, I think that the really awesome thing about wedding videography is that I'm working for myself, so I can create my own schedule. This is the reason why I went into wedding videography, basically. That, and the fact that the type of wedding videography that I do is like more creative and actually is like fun to do. So it's like the best possible way for me to make money and still be doing something that's creative and within my field. So like progressing the same skill set that I want, like in my personal work or whatever. But basically, so I do things like music videos with friends. I have various like personal projects, like lots of musician friends. I do music videos for them.
Did you do the surgery video, by the way?
I helped with the surgery video.
Okay.
I had a good friend of mine shot the surgery video and then was like way too busy to finish it, and so I did the final edit for it. Cool. But there's like a bunch of different music videos I've done and things like that. But the biggest thing for me actually is that because I have my own work schedule, when I'm in a normal, right now I'm traveling all the time and going to all these weddings, so it's like the abnormal part of my year. It's like completely just like, I just have to travel and shoot these weddings and I don't really have much time to do editing. But when I'm on a regular schedule of editing, then I do actually only 4 days of work a week and 1 day of just like personal projects.
Gotcha.
And so that's like this is like the reason I took the job pretty much, so that I have the ability to like take time to do like personal work, like music videos and short films and little things like that, because you have to do that kind of stuff to like stay happy,
But it takes a discipline though.
Right, totally. It's absolutely like something that I've had to work into my own workflow and like make time for, like take a day. And it's so hard to take one day. Like I'll be like, okay, this is my personal day. Well, I have all these emails I have to answer. I guess I'm going to do that for half the day, and now I have half a day. Am I really going to take the time to do this? It's like, so you have to actually like take the time and be like, okay, today I'm going to write down the shot list for that music video or whatever,
How long does it take to make those really, really great Facebook profile photos that you put together?
Those just come from the fact that now I work in an industry with a whole bunch of amazing photographers, so I'm just privy to being around photographers, and then it just happens. And I get to dress up all the time too. Every single weekend, I get to dress up, which is awesome.
What do you do when you do you're going to Ireland?
I'm going to Ireland next week. Yeah,
cool.
It's true. That's totally crazy. Actually, it's like really just like kind of lucky and awesome. I'm going to I have 2 different like weddings that I'm going to internationally. One is in Ireland next week, and the other one is in Bangkok at the end of the month.
Weddings.
Yeah, weddings. People, the way that you
Listening?
the way that we market ourselves is completely online and through blogs, and so all the jobs come from just everywhere. It's anyone who would be reading these blogs.
Yeah.
It's not. There's no like local anymore. It's completely just national and international.
The discipline and scheduling of how you're getting your own projects to having them come to fruition. That happens on those plane rides, and that happens in the travel, doesn't it?
Right. Somewhat.
All right.
I mean, it's been really, really hard for me to do any kind of personal work while I'm doing all the traveling. Because, and like, it's hard to even take any time off. I do take one day off a week, but I can't, like, travel days aren't a day off, you know? It's like, I'm traveling, I end up being more tired than I was, even though I had lots of time that I was sitting around, you know, things like that. But anyway, it's interesting. It's a good type of job, and actually, so the ultimate purpose, the real reason that I took the job, and the ultimate thing of like having control over my own time is that like I actually want to be making like movies, you know, like and having a job where I can choose to take a job or not take a job. I can choose to schedule weddings on any given weekend or not. At a certain point, once I'm like a little more financially stable or whatever, I can just be like, okay, not taking any wedding for 3 months next year, and I'm going to make a movie during that time.
Careful, you're going to lose your clientele. How do they know about you, by the way?
They know about me because I joined a company that had a lot of momentum behind it and that was really plugged into these very like certain type of wedding blogs that are still like have a large kind of following. So it's totally, I can't take credit for the momentum myself. I built some of my own momentum at this point. I probably get maybe 30% of my inquiries like straight to me from my own work, people just finding me, and maybe like, you know, the other 70% from the company that I work with.
Nice. And also as you're thinking of your movie eventually,
Right.
Do you have a timetable?
I do. My timetable is really, really broad and general at this point. Basically, I want to try and make a movie sometime in the next 3 years. I've decided that, like, within the next 3 years, by the time I'm 30, I want to be either having had made a movie or be well underway, like, having written it and be, like, going into production on a movie. So I think it's a pretty reasonable, like, time frame for something like that.
Is it going to be along the lines of, like, Dominic Rabelais' Space Demon movie?
Yeah, probably. It'll be, like, super crazy.
All right, I guess we need to sort of be... I hear you. Jason Strong, by the way, behind the camera, behind the booth. Thank you again, sir. I ask... Normally at the end of a show... At least with the when I'm interviewing like artists, recording artists and folks, I always ask, what's your advice for new artists? But I flipped the question a little bit recently where I say, what's your advice to yourself? Like the younger self, or even to yourself now, if that's a little too rough.
Starting with
let's start with you.
Yeah. Just any advice that I would give to myself like, at this point. I think the best advice that I could give to myself is that practice makes perfect, and it's really, really important to spend a lot of time working on your craft, like spending time on your craft, because it's the only way to get better, the only foolproof way to get better.
Nice.
You know?
And there were ominous bells in the background, by the way, just now, when you said that. Ken, this should be interesting.
Yeah, advice to self?
To self. Mm-hmm. It could be to younger self or now.
I think what it is that looking after yourself is very, very important in the deepest way of looking after yourself. I find people not being able to take that one day a week. You know, it's like that requires, especially when you're starting to develop something, it's such a stretch to take that off. It's just like, oh my gosh, there's going to be these laws. Mm-hmm. Being able to look after yourself as musicians, same thing. You know, just being able to pull back and have that, whatever is nourishing you, whatever feeds you, time. I think it's absolutely crucial. And it's something in our society that we've completely gutted.
But Ken, I have to throw back at you. That's advice to you too, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey.
Because I've seen you. I know this. I know the amount of video screens in your office there.
No, absolutely.
They're so cool. But we'll let everybody in on it. Ken was my boss once. Best boss. And I really am grateful for you coming on the show today. It was sort of like I met him in the store yesterday, and I said, Ken, I gotta get you. So I really appreciate it. And Jeff pulled off the street, tried to get you for a while, and we literally just met 20 minutes before the show. So. What is your advice to yourselves, or I guess we've expanded it, so what kind of advice do you have?
Sure. Me first?
Yeah.
I was thinking has been a big one for me lately, just to wherever you are and whatever you're doing, not comparing yourself to other people and where they are, because you only have what you have and you're doing what you're doing. So just like being aware that what you're doing is valid and important in its own place and where it's going, rather than, there are so many other people that are doing such wonderful things that it's hard to not be like, wow, putting yourself in their place, but just being aware of the merit that your own work has and its journey or whatever.
And its journey, and it can be hard because in a way it's competitive out there. If you're not in that spot, somebody else is in that spot.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
Keeping a level head about that kind of thing. So.
Yeah.
Mr. McIntosh?
Mr. Jesse McIntosh. I think that artistically, I'd say just that there are always reasons not to do something, especially something that you're taking a risk doing, a positive risk. There are always reasons not to do it, and so to just not letting those keep you from doing something, from like taking a risk to like follow. I hate to say like following your dream, but I'd say follow your goals. Like make it a goal and then do it. And it's like if it's something that you're really passionate about and that's important and that's positive, like burn the ships, to use that old analogy. Like go put yourself into it and be really serious about achieving it. And then also once you've done that, something that I think I used to have some understanding of, but I have even more understanding of now, is don't wait for other people to do things for you or for things to come to you.
Definitely.
You create your own reality. So like if you want to make a record, if you want to make a movie, if you want to get on an award-winning news program in
like
Fairfield,
Fairfield
Iowa.
2.0.
That's right. Just like make it happen, So, and these days you make that happen through emailing, kids.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it takes time.
Yeah.
Right.
I see so many people, young people in particular, that are 19 and they're writing their first novel. Well, okay, I hear you. But at some point, you've got to put in the time. You've got to develop your craft.
Yeah.
And, the 10,000 hours, you've heard that, if you don't put 10,000 hours in, you likely don't have the refinement that you need.
Yeah.
And that's why, with your videography,
Right.
that shooting of the in the wedding situation, it's refining the craft. I'm sure. I'm sure it's feeding that. You mentioned that a while ago.
Yeah.
Your music that you're doing on the road right now. Every time you do it, that feeds that ability to be non-compromising in your path.
Yeah.
And the acknowledgement. I really think that was a very powerful statement. The acknowledgement of your path and the acceptance of that. That's a really powerful way of looking at it, because it's you that refines that.
Yeah.
And it takes time.
And in the case that you brought up before about the 19-year-old novelist, it's you have to have a life before you write about it, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But it's not a reason to not write about it.
Well, yeah, exactly. But just go live. But in addition to,
But the thing is, it takes time to refine. Time to refine, and not to be too anxious about. Oh, I got to get it done now. It's a process. It's It's deep commitment to art form. Art forms are so important, I think, as artists, and I speak to you in particular, that as an artist, that is a wonderful contribution to society. But it's your contribution. It's a very unique twist, and each one of us have our own unique twist, and it takes time to develop that.
Ken, and I also want to throw out there a big thank you, because you've been I won't go into specifics, but you were very, very supportive of like my interviews and things like that over the course that we were together. We were together working together. I really appreciate the enthusiasm, and I appreciate the support you gave me. That really meant a lot to me, and it helped me develop. I mean, during that time period, it really helped me develop. Again, without going into specifics, it helped me develop where I was going with questions, where I was going with the artists, being able to be with them more. It helped me towards my 10,000 hours. So that was great.
And it's this time thing. It's like, that was one job, but don't take it personally, but I got more out of you in your job because I gave you that other time to be able to nurture that other bit of you, so that you weren't being drawn all the time, between this or that. It's like, okay, here's acknowledged time. It's
Nice.
It just feeds us.
Thanks.
We're all artists.
All right, we got to wrap things up. Everybody's invited back, including you. Next time you come through town, Fairfield 2.0. But let's remind everybody, we've got an album here. We've got an EP here by Kalispell.
Yeah.
How do you spell that?
It's spelled the same as the town of Montana. Kalispell.
Glad I asked.
Yeah.
All right. And we've got Shane Leonard.
You got it.
Not Shane McIntosh. But I'm reading. And we have Jess McIntosh also. Thank you very, very much for coming by. And it was so instant. And thank you, Taylor Ross, for setting all this up. And Youssef, nice meeting you. And we've got Jeff Boothby over here. Again, we got to have everybody back. This was a little too short. And Ken Daly, who, again, I will always be grateful to. And you were just great. You were a great boss man. Come again for more adoration of Ken Daly and the gang here on Fairfield 2.0. And hang in there also a little bit longer because we're going to have a little concert by Kalispell. You can't leave until you play. So thank you very much for watching, and thank you guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. So we are Shane and Jess. And we play in a band called Kalispell from Eau Claire, Wisconsin. And we're going to play a few songs for you. I ain't got no use for your red rocking chair. I don't have no honey baby now. I don't have no honey baby, sugar baby now. I ain't got no honey baby now. And it's who rock that cradle, who sing this song, who rock that cradle when you're gone. Who rock that cradle when you're gone, Lord, Lord, and I ain't got no honey baby now. Well, I'll rock that cradle, I'll sing this song, I'll rock that cradle when you're gone. I'll rock that cradle when you're gone, Lord, Lord, and I ain't got no honey baby now. I laid her in the shade, gave her every dime I made. What more could a poor boy do? What more could a poor boy do, Lord, Lord, and I ain't got no honey baby now. I've done all I can do, and I've said all I can say. Sing it to your mama next payday. Take it to your mama next payday, Lord, Lord, and I ain't got no honey baby now. Got no use for your red rocking chair. I don't have no honey baby now. I ain't got no honey baby, sugar baby now. I ain't got no honey baby now. My troubles are so deep that I can't even sleep. I'll see you when your troubles are like mine. I'll see you when your troubles are like mine, Lord, Lord, and I ain't got no honey baby now. So that was an old traditional called Red Rocking Chair, our own arrangement of it. And we're going to play a song now that we wrote that's called, well, actually it's untitled at this point, but it's kind of a combination of Appalachian-style clawhammer banjo and an interpretation of a short story by John Cheever. Four children and our mother gathered here. What for? To fight the separation of marriage and war. In business we've done well for ourselves, and what for? To build this house on rocky shore, Massachusetts Island. Our Father, who art now in heaven, and what for? Built this house and he drowned. We've come to comfort our mother, reclaim our brothers, fight the separation. And time passes us by. What for? Four children and our mother gathered here. And what for? To fight the separation and mend what's torn. We've done well for ourselves. What for? We've done well for ourselves. What for? We've done well for ourselves. This is a song that I learned from a recording of Mike Seeger, who is a great banjo player and a player of a lot of other instruments as well. And I learned this song off of a record of his called Southern Banjo Sounds, kind of a survey of a bunch of clawhammer and two-finger and other kinds of banjo stuff. And but anyway, so this is our own arrangement of that tune, and so it's an old traditional tune called Darling Corey.
Wake up, darling Corey, what makes you sleep so sound? The revenue officer's coming, he's gonna tear your still house down. The first time I saw Corey, she was sitting on the banks of the sea. Had a 44 around her body and a banjo on her knee. Go away, darling Corey, quit hanging round my bed. Your liquor has ruined my body, pretty women have gone to my head. Dig a hole in the middle, dig a hole in the cold, cold ground. Dig a hole in the middle, gonna lay darling Corey down. Don't you hear those bluebirds singing? Can't you hear that mournful sound? They preaching darling Corey's funeral in a lonesome graveyard ground. Wake up, darling Corey, go get me my gun. I haven't a mind for fighting, but I'll die before I run. I'll die before I run. So that was a tune called Darling Corey, and the next one we're going to play is kind of in the similar vein. It's got a traditional sound, but it's sort of a new take on that. And it's in a different banjo tuning. So you lucky people out there get to listen to the beautiful sound of the banjo being tuned. So I mentioned before that I've been reading a lot of John Cheever stories and kind of finding ways to combine that with traditional Appalachian sounds, which we're both pretty passionate about studying. Jess and I
travel down to Kentucky and Tennessee and West Virginia and places around there as often as we can to get with the old masters, as they're called on Wikipedia. So this is a new song, and it's called Beautiful Doll, and I wrote it to the melody of a fiddle tune that we learned from a great North Carolina banjo player named Frank Lee, who I'm pretty sure I think he'd strangle me if I called him an old master. He's only 40 or 50. So he's not an old master. Some of them are, but Frank's not up there yet, but he's definitely a master. So this one's called Beautiful Doll.
In Sutton lived a girl Irene, soft brown hair, features plain. To her lover Jane she'd often call and ask to be his beautiful doll. All in envy she'd compare, features plain to others fair. She went to James all sad and lonesome, she said to him these words. I've seen bright days and darkened nights, planted hearts that grew from seed to spike, laid alone upon leaves that from them fell. Will I ever be your beautiful doll? I've seen bright days and darkened nights, partnered 13 years and married 9. And across those many years I saw, you will never be my beautiful doll. For a doll's heart can love but one, looks upon itself and no one else. Selfish-hearted you'll never be. Oh, my darling, come and go with me.
So this last song that we're going to do is actually not an original. It's I mentioned that we study a lot of traditional Appalachian music, commonly called old-time music, which is a lot like bluegrass, same instruments, but it's just older. And so this is an old ballad that I learned from a great West Virginia singer named Elizabeth Laprelle, and it involves no banjo, to my chagrin. So this is a ballad from the British Isles called Lady Margaret. Lady Margaret was standing in her own room door, combing her long yellow hair, when who did she spy but sweet William and his bride, as the churchyard they drew near. Well, the day went away and the night coming on, and most of the men were asleep. Lady Margaret appeared all dressed in white, standing at Willie's bed feet. She asked, "How do you like your bed? And how do you like your sheets? And how do you like that fair young girl who's lying in your arms asleep?" He said, "Very well do I like my bed, and better do I like my sheets, but most of all that fair young girl who's standing at my bed feet." Then once he kissed her lily white hand, and twice he kissed her cheek. 3 times he kissed her cold corpse lips, and fell into her arms asleep. Well, the night went away and the day coming on, and most of the men were awake. Well, he said, "I'm troubled in my head by a dream that me did take." He asked, "Is Lady Margaret in her room, or is she out in the hall?" But Lady Margaret lay in a cold, cold grave, with her face turned toward the wall. Thank you so much for watching. And we're Kalispell. We're from Eau Claire, Wisconsin. We're on tour right now for about 6 weeks. And all the tour dates are posted on our website, kalispellband.com, and also on our Facebook page. So tell your friends to come on out to a show and check it out. Thanks a bunch.
Thanks.